All right. Tap, 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 tap. Is this thing on? All right. So, yeah, yesterday, oh my gosh. Had a lot of videos yesterday and was doing a lot of stuff. And then at 3 o'clock, I hit a wall. Like, I actually hit a wall. And I don't, it's weird when you hit a wall. It's like you just have to sleep. Yesterday, like, after all that stuff, I had to lay on the couch and put my head down and go to sleep because, oh my God. And so, yeah, I finally woke up when my husband came home, but it was pretty crazy. And so, yeah, so the virus variants are out there, and we're all dealing with the bio fluctuations. And during this time of me, dealing with the bio fluctuations of adapting to my environment, I am purporting that everyone take a middle ground when it comes to all the different politics. Now, you know my view that I do come off more conspiracy than not, and only because I know in my world, okay, which is relatively easily to control, that both my husband and I have intentions. Hey, John Oakes. Both my husband and I have intentions. Okay, he has his intentions, I have mine. When something happens, whatever it is, whether money gets spent or we, end up in a situation, it's because somebody had an intention to do something and this is the result. And we're relatively like we're not completely the same, but we have a balance where I have weaknesses and he has strengths and he has strengths and I have weaknesses, and then we balance each other out. And so when I say, hey, this might happen if you do this, I would advise not to do that. And he's like, oh, okay. And though he won't do it. And sometimes he will, sometimes he won't. So I know that we work together that way. That way we don't end up in the poorhouse on the streets, right? We help each other out and we warn each other and say, okay, there's danger here, or I wouldn't do that over here. And that's great. So, so I know I come off more conspiracy minded when it comes to like, different, um, like different military tactics when it comes to psychological operations. And I know if you're not familiar with psychological operations, you're going to assume that when I say that, you've been Bolsheviked, okay, like, a Russian psychological, operation of Operation Trust, that could potentially be actually perpetrated on a domestic population as well as an international population. And I was raised with a psychologist who would use different tactics to get my sister and I to do things that we didn't really want to do, like, do the chores or do our homework or go to bed or whatever it is that you have to do to get your kid to do something. Sometimes some parents have a great relationship with their kids, and the kid doesn't have too many, hormonal biochemical issues, so it's not an issue. You don't have to use tactics. But like someone like me who's very headstrong, you have to use certain type of psychological manipulations to get me to do something, because otherwise I'd be like no, or I would find a way to argue or something. I wasn't easy, okay, and I know that. So I think having a psychologist for a mother, exposed me to what it's like to be manipulated into doing something that I really didn't want to do, like go to school or something. Okay? And so, if that happens, in a family of people who do have psychologists in the family, they bring their work home. How is that too far from the realm of possibility that it couldn't be used on a domestic population to get them to move to do something that they don't want to do? Okay, so bring it from the micro to how do you get your kids to go and clean up dog shit to how do you get humanity to be okay with paying more for gas? Okay, I know that sounds kind of like weird, but people are now already bitching about gas prices. I'm like, well, where the hell are you going to go anyways? Okay, yeah, you got to go to work, but now, yeah, you're going to go to work, go home, and maybe find work next to home, or telecommute. And right now, people are not supposed to be hanging out together, so just stay home, and the gas prices are not going to be an issue for you. But hey, people are bitching about that. So what are you going to do? So I do come off. Like I said, Soros and Trump are part of this whole thing, whatever. That comes off very conspiracy, yes, only because I understand that when you have people in power, they have the intention to have things happen or not happen at all. So it's not a conspiracy. I just know human nature. But now, but now, but now in my book, okay, like I said yesterday, the repurposing of humanity, that sounds very conspiracy minded. Oh, I know that. And I said that I have to take a middle ground. So, which means that I must introduce the other arguments of how the repurposing of humanity, how it came to be, and was it intentional? Was it an accident? And they just happened to be all prepared, like I'm prepared for plan A, plan B, plan C. Okay, and so is Bill Gates. That's why he has the patents on the specific coronavirus, because yes, there's different variants, and also maybe they were tipped off, and I'll tell you why in a second, of potential that it could have been released. Okay, so there's four ways. There's four ways of why the virus was released to then trigger the succession of events that happened this last year. And then, yeah, you have, the BLM, Antifa, the right wing, the Trump people, and you bring all that into a mix. 2020 was almost like it was too perfect, but I can't say it was intentional. I have no proof of that. I could be like, that's just so weird. All of a sudden, after all these years where we had, little skirmishes here and there, people are not happy with this, not happy with that. All of a sudden, everything comes to a head in 2020, and this virus just like really just threw everyone for a loop. And yeah, I can kind of see that a virus could make people be really, really, really just triggered, and then someone is just throwing gas on the fire type of thing. And and I can see that because J Juice brings to surface everything that you've ever had to deal with, and it's like 2020, it's a little insane, but for me to come off on the middle ground, okay, and not come off like a conspiracy theorist, because yes, I'm going to bring in the Georgia Guidestones, but that was an actual monument with specific things. It's in Wikipedia, even Newsweek, CNN, whatever, they've covered it. Okay, so it's not like something that was just found in some obscure blog site that someone said that they found this, somewhere that there was an actual monument called the Georgia Guidestones that actually has 10 or so directives or projections of what they see the future is going to be. And the one thing that resonated with me was the 500 million population, balancing Mother Nature and whatever, and don't be a cancer on this earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. Okay, that's huge. And we have 7 billion people, and then we know with the JJs, 7 billion people are imbalanced. We learned that dying and reproducing has caused so many different imbalances. I mean, that's not like a conspiracy. We know that people have babies on bodies that aren't completely 100%, and yes, are passing down compound predispositions that manifest into behavior issues as well as other types of predispositions. So that's not a conspiracy. That's just genetics. That's just science. Okay, so all right, so there's that. Okay, so the Georgia Guidestones, and then you have psychology, military tactics, the art of war, all of that. But how did the virus, we could say that, oh yeah, they purposely released it. Now that's a very conspiracy, one-sided, super freaking biased. Yeah, they purposely released it so they can then, trigger all these events that happened last year, and then to trigger then taking away your rights and putting everybody in a FEMA camp and all this other stuff and mass vaccinating everybody. And okay, yeah, the outcome is happening, and I said the outcome is the intention. And yeah, it could potentially be. Maybe it was in the works for a long time. They knew. So here's the four areas that I'm going to have to introduce in my book, so it doesn't come off like a freaking conspiracy, like, oh yeah, they're purposely doing this so that way they can cut down the population, repurpose you, and then get rid of all the useless leaders. Okay, so the repurposing of humanity was inevitable. 4 ways how a contagious virus gets released. Theory 1. The good guys pushing forced evolution to meet the requirements of the Georgia Guidestones. Okay, that's very conspiracy related, but that's a theory. Because maybe, you've heard about Bill Gates and what he said about, taking away the God gene in one of the videos. We know that any type of virus and vaccination causes a lot of action potential, and people do have mild or very severe reactions to it. And that's where you're going to roll the dice if you don't really know. Well, you'll never know how you're going to react to a virus or the vaccine. So it's still a crapshoot. So theory one is the good guys pushing the forced evolution to meet the requirements of the Georgia Guidestones. Okay? That's theory number one. That's kind of where I come from, but I know that I can't prove that, and that's not really that's not the fact. Because there's no way to prove that. That's disputable. So that's not a fact. That's just my own theory that doesn't mean shit. Okay? Theory number two. The bad guys forced an evolution to see what the world is made up of, wanted to see the things burn, so to speak. Okay? So you could say that there's bad guys, whoever they are, whether they're infiltrated into our government, as well as and you could say Falsey and all these different people. Hey, I'm not gonna to make any kind of accusations against anyone there, but there is this bad guy, whoever it is, forced an evolution, which means they knew that they were studying the virus in the lab because they wanted to study different variants to make vaccines, because they knew inevitably it may happen. And so, yes, then Bill Gates also got wind of it, and then he made a patent so he can then create the therapeutics and potentially the vaccines too. Okay, and that's when, when you know something's bound to happen, like I have life insurance on my husband. I know something bound to happen, and he understands it too, that if something, that I have some kind of preparation to make sure that I'm okay. That's not like a conspiracy. That's just being prepared for potential. Okay? And that's it. I mean, when you have insurance, regardless, you're just being prepared for the potential. So then, all the things that came after that, when the virus was released and all these things that happened, and our powers that be were prepared to put directives in to figure out, in an event of something like it were to happen, what would be the first places to be closed down. Yes, restaurants, any place where it's large gatherings. And then maybe they'll pick and choose what places can be open based upon the needs of society. Okay, so they already have their scenarios, their practice scenarios, whether or not it was because they knew it was going to happen, or that it was going to happen eventually, someday. Like the military, they do practice operation readiness, operation inspection, like I did when I was in the National Guard. And they may have known that 20 years from now we're going to deal with the virus. I don't know. Or they're just prepared that our enemies have, bio warfare. Okay, so there's so many different scenarios, and there's no way to know which one it is. So you have to introduce all of them as a possibility and meet everyone's, expectations of, or not expectations, meet everyone's where they're at. Because yeah, you're some people on the left that just think everything happens out of a vacuum. It's just it just happened, and the people on the right are like, oh God, no, it was planned. And people that are just in academia or whatever, they're like, it was inevitable because humanity is that imbalanced and we have that much stuff going on that it was bound to happen. And they also know they're studying different viruses in very secretive and secure locations, but not so secure really now, right? Okay. And so then number three, it was an accident and inevitable that a lab studying all different variants releases it. Okay. So it was an accident. Accidents happen. People get stupid. You know that. Now I question the stupidity in Trump and in Biden. They're not stupid. They actually know exactly what they were doing and when they were doing and what they could have said and what they didn't say. Okay. I don't think my government is stupid. I don't think the Republicans are stupid, and I don't think the Democrats are stupid. I think they're so freaking smart. They want to come off like they're stupid, so one side could be, but that's my feeling. But hey, some people think that the Republicans are stupid. And if you think the Republicans or Democrats are stupid, that was because you were made to think that. Because really, when you think about it, anyone that gets to any place in power, you're not supposed to be stupid. And if you are, that will never happen. If you are, then you're supposed to come off that way for whatever reason. Okay? So, believe me, they're not going to put some Joe Schmo on my street here. Like I live somewhere in the ghetto. They're not going to put some guy next door to me to put him in the place of power. No one would take them seriously. Okay? So, Trump isn't stupid, and neither is Biden. They are very calculated, and they've been groomed for fucking years. Okay? But hey, shit happens. Labs have accidents. All right. And then number 4, serendipity in Mother Nature, wanting humanity to evolve. And the wet market was a perfect place. Serendipity means it's a happy, beneficial accident. Okay? And so it's like, so Mother Nature does things, and I mean, the evolution of man, things happen, variants of viruses jump from one species to another. It evolved, the Darwin, only the strong survived, they adapted, all of that. Okay, so for me to even come off, if there was an actual plan to repurpose humanity, all those 4 scenarios have to be entertained in some way, because eventually, yeah, there's going to have to be a change in our society, especially if you hear about, Rosa Quarry and the green sustainability, the green thing, they call it green communism and all that. That's already been, people know about that. I mean, people know that that's the intentions of our government is to eventually become green, to eventually have everything digitized, to eventually have, to guide reproduction carefully so we're not having children willy-nilly. Okay, so that's all. So now I could put all those 4 scenarios and you could pick which one you want. And then you look at, okay, the projections of the future. Okay, you can make your own connections or not. Whatever. But something has to happen for everyone to buy into, even if you don't want to buy into the green sustainability and whatever, where, yeah, you're going to have bullet trains and you're going to cordon off different sections of the world to where you let Mother Nature come back. Yeah, I mean, you could say, I'm just saying that there's been projections of what they want to see in the future, and there has to be an event to force people, whether or not they want to comply to the new society. Okay? And yeah, when you have a virus, there's a new virus, there's going to have to be new vaccines. That just goes hand in hand. How a virus got released, hey. But no matter what, your government must be prepared to deal with whatever was intentional or whatever was accident. Either way, your government has to be prepared to deal with it, to make sure that there is law and order, there is peace, relative peace, and that, yeah, there are people in our society that are racist, that are very, very, very intolerant, and, to bring them to surface so we can arrest them, you got to create scenarios. Oh God, that sounds like a conspiracy. Well, it's like like a psychologist creating scenarios to make a couple fight, and then there must be they know they can calculate the reactions of the couple, and one's inevitably going to go to jail because it's a domestic violence situation. And so the person goes to jail, and then now they can move forward into whatever the next step is. I mean, that's just psychology. And psychiatry does the same thing. Medical system does the same thing. They have to create events. They have to do things to, make the body respond, so then they can do things to make the body respond in a different way. I mean, it's all medical psychology, it's all that stuff. So that's one of my challenges, knowing that I'm coming from a point of view where, like, I know there's a certain conspiracy. Is everything conspiracy? No, I think some things are a little bit organic, but is anything organic in this world? No. So that's my challenge, knowing where I came from, trying to take a middle ground. Okay? I still don't think Trump is that stupid. I think Trump knew exactly what he was doing. But hey, it is what it is. I think all of our people in our government knew exactly what they were doing, and they're working with playing off each other, playing a part, whatever. But that's my feelings. A lot of people feel the same way, okay? Because, people just have beliefs, but it's not a fact. Trump could very well be stupid and say the stupid things that he did to then potentially trigger a situation. Okay, fine. But I don't want to believe he's that stupid. But remember what you say when you're a leader. Just remember, when you're a leader of people who need a leader, who need someone to glom onto, who need someone to guide them, you have so much responsibility in what you say, that people are going to do what you're going to do. And so that's why I try not to, that's why I say I try not to lead too much in my group. Yes, I have been a very despotic type of moderator admin earlier on, because yes, when you're trying to get a point across and it's being diluted by everyone that's trying to argue with you and mess with you, yeah, you're deleted, blocked, blocked, deleted. And then I put down the rules and regulations in my group. Once I figured out what they are and what I want to see in my world of Jilly Juice, I put down the rules and regulations. I don't want to lead anyone. I just want to put down the rules and regulations and just enforce the rules and regulations. You do what you want. I don't care. If you want to take a bunch of freaking vitamins and supplements, don't post that in my group, but do the hell you want. Just know that in my protocol, that might undermine your stuff, but I don't care what you do. Just you can't promote that in my group, because I'm not trying to turn it into another holistic group that promotes synthetic vasodilation and vasoconstriction. Okay? But that's all I really want to do. I don't want to be telling you. I mean, I do dream about where I potentially like where I think I want to be, projection, like, I mean, or talk about scenarios that could be really weird, like, 50 years from now when I look like this and I go get my driver's license and get a picture taken, are the people at the DMV are going to be like, are you sure you are who you say you are? Because you're born in 1974 and it's 2050 and you should be dead by now or something, I think about those scenarios like, oh yeah, or you're getting Social Security and, and you're looking like this and you're retired and living off Social Security and because now everything is back down to a more normal price. Not everything is so astronomically so expensive. So you're living off of Social Security of either your husband or whoever for the next how many years, and you look great. You look like, I mean, your husband died, or whatever from natural causes, and you look amazing. I mean, those are the things that I think about, that I talk about to my people, not because I want them to do the JJs because of that, because let me tell you, that's so far in the future that's just things that I think about and I dream about, but it's not because I want to make them do the JJs, because inevitably you got to do the first step. You got to do the waterfalls. You got to feel all the different pain, and you probably can't even get past that. You're never going to see what it's be like to have a driver's license that looks like, that's going to be like so weird. And luckily I've been mainstream, so that way, people are like, well, why do you look so young? Because I had someone say to me, you look so young. I mean, I'm like, hey, I'm Asian. Because I could go off and say the Jilly Juice, but I don't know I'm Asian. Asians, we have good skin. And I just leave it at that. Because it's not really, I just don't have the time to go into that. Sometimes I will say Jilly Juice to some people, but not all the time. I don't promote Jilly Juice all the time. Sometimes I don't even want to be bothered with it, because I'm trying to get with my book. And I'm not trying to but sometimes I will, like at Starbucks I will, and, because they've seen me for a while, and like I'm writing a book, and and I was talking about asexual versus, sexual, and mitosis versus meiosis, and I'm like, yeah, you can reproduce, mitosis at the cellular level, and you don't have to have babies and live forever. And she's like, what the hell? So sometimes I'll do that, and I'll just kind of drop these little truth bombs, not fact bombs. Well, fact bombs, but some people will be like, what? So, and John said, I have my original paper version of birth certificate, looks antique already. Oh yeah, oh I can, yeah, well, it's going to be interesting when you get your driver's license. See, give it another 50. Do the J juice. Get your hair back, okay, John? And you're doing all that. And give yourself 50 years in the future. And you get your driver's license, and you were born in 19. Who knows? I don't know how old you are. And they're like, shouldn't you have gray hair and be all wrinkly, and you look like you're just in the prime of your youth? That's what I kind of dream about, is when I outlive Dr. Phil. I outlive all my critics because they're too busy being stupid against me. And then I'm still around with the J juice doing my thing. Okay? And so that's the thing that I look forward to. But I don't use it as a selling point. I just use it as like, wow. And this is for all of you. All of you guys are doing the J juice. You're going to be experiencing the same thing. You're going to be like, people are like, what the hell? So anyways, so that's how I have to come across in the book, because the book that I'm writing right now must stand the test of time. It must entertain all theories out there regarding what caused us to transition from the old world into the new world. And you could say it was done purposefully and da-da-da, but I don't want to come off that way, because I don't want that book to be banned. I want to be able to be able to talk about what the different thought processes were and where I also fell into. Okay. And you're 78. Shut up. So I want to be able to entertain all the different thought processes in the future in my book, and so that way the book will always stand the test of time. You'll never know if something's intentional or if it was inevitable or if it was a good guy or the bad guy or whatever, because there's always going to be so many different vignettes, different Shakespearean archetypal stories of soap opera, like you're saying, oh yeah, China has the sanctions on all the Trump administration. Okay, big freaking deal. Oh, Iraq or Iran is all pissed off and they're setting up for something because of taking out that guy, their general. Okay, so there's always going to be, stage theatrics on the world stage, or there's going to be theatrics on the world stage, but it's whatever, you just introduce all the different possibilities and still know that your protocol, regardless of how everything came about, the Julius protocol can stand the test of time. And it never took one side or the other. And that's where I want you guys to come from. Is that yes, everything is possible, but I don't want Trump or Biden or any of these politicians to insult my intelligence. And that's where I'm coming from. Even though I can't prove that Trump and Biden are all being Bolshevik and Soros are all working together, but I don't want them to think that they're insulting my intelligence either. Okay? When you're in leadership, you are so intelligent and you've been proven to be capable. And yeah, some people do, they do fall apart. Like, Schumer said erection instead of insurrection. Okay. He's really old. All right. And so maybe they keep him around just to say, okay, well, yeah, our politicians can be breaking down and do stupid stuff. And so that way we can blame them when something goes wrong. Oh, yeah, there's always that too. Okay. So just, so anyways, rest in peace, Larry King. He was definitely, an icon during the 90s and the 80s and 90s, all that 2000s. My God. I was watching last night, was it The Talented Mr. Ripley, and watching, Matt Damon and Jude Law and what's that other, Gwyneth Paltrow, and I'm just like, I miss the days in the 90s, and I was partying in San Francisco and watching Sex and the City and all the great movies back then. Robin Williams, and now we're into this new world where everyone's dying from my childhood that were in movies, and it's just like just moving forward and change is difficult. It's sad, but you just that's why I watch a lot of older movies, because it does. I mean, it reminds me of the times when things were a bit more innocent, when they were fun, you know, going to the clubs, the raves, and all that, drinking alcohol and partying on the buses, going from bar to bar to bar and in the city, and eating really good food and getting my hair done and all that stuff. I don't know. It's just, those are the days. All right. I'm going to go, but do your thing. You guys have a good Saturday. All right. Bye.